She was the most decorated female soldier in the history of human warfare. 12 medals, 9 wounds, 3 wars fought across 2 continents. And by 1927, this same woman was on her hands and knees, scrubbing the floors of a bank manager's office who had no idea who he was employing. Her name was Milunka Savić. The country she nearly died for forgot she existed. France never did. She was born in 1892 in Koprivnica, a tiny village of just 20 people near Novi Pazar in southwestern Serbia. Her family was desperately poor, and her parents, Danica and Radenko, raised Milunka and her siblings on a simple code: be virtuous, be honest, love your neighbor, and love your country. Milunka took that last part more literally than anyone could have imagined. In October of 1912, when the First Balkan War erupted, her brother Milan received his conscription papers. But Milan was ill, too sick to fight, and so Milunka made a decision that would alter the course of her life forever. She would go in his place. She understood this wasn't as simple as throwing on a uniform. In her own words, it's not just put on men's clothes, cut your hair, tighten your chest, and that's it. You've become a man. I have to practice my speech and posture. And practice she did. She enlisted as Milunka Savić, joined the legendary Iron Regiment, the elite 2nd Infantry Regiment Knjaz Mihailo of the Serbian Army, and marched straight into combat at the Battle of Kumanovo. If you're new here, this is exactly the kind of story this channel exists to tell. Real women, real history, written out of the record. Stick around because it only gets more unbelievable from here. Nobody suspected a thing. She fought through the entire First Balkan War. Then came the Second Balkan War in June of 1913, and at the Battle of Bregalnica, Milunka was wounded. When the field medics treated her injuries, her secret was finally revealed. Her commanding officers were stunned. They offered her a transfer to the nursing division, considered a perfectly respectable role for a woman at the time. Milunka refused. She was brought before Duke Radomir Putnik, the chief of staff of the Supreme Command of the Kingdom of Serbia himself, who advised her to become a nurse and told her it would be such a waste for her to die so young. Her response was 4 words: "Duke, I want a rifle." The officer told her he would give his answer the next day. Milunka simply said, "I will wait," and remained standing at attention in front of him. She held that position for a full hour before he finally relented and sent her back to the infantry. She was promoted to corporal shortly after. Then came the Great War. When World War I erupted in 1914 and Austria-Hungary invaded Serbia, Milunka was already a seasoned soldier. She endured the harrowing Serbian retreat through Albania in 1915, one of the war's most devastating military marches, where the entire Serbian army crossed frozen mountain passes in the dead of winter. At the Battle of Kolubara in late 1914, she did something almost beyond belief. She charged across no man's land carrying 2 bandoliers of grenades and her standard-issue rifle, single-handedly cleared an Austrian trench, then ran to the next position where 20 enemy soldiers immediately surrendered. She sent the prisoners back and kept going, assaulting yet another trench. When her commander, Dimitrije Milic, asked the regiment who deserved the Karađorđe Star, with swords, Serbia's highest military decoration, the entire regiment answered with one voice: Milunka Savić. She was not alone among women breaking barriers in the Serbian army. Flora Sandes, a British nurse who crossed over to become a combat soldier in the Serbian army, fought on some of the same fronts as Milunka during this period. The 2 women represented something the world had never quite seen before: female soldiers fighting openly in a modern European war. But even Sandes, remarkable as she was, never matched Milunka's combat record. In 1916, at the Battle of Kurna Bend on the Macedonian front, she earned her 2nd Karađorđe Star after capturing 23 Bulgarian soldiers by herself. In other actions on that same front, she captured 43 soldiers in one engagement and 60 in another. By the war's end, her list of decorations read like fiction: 2 Karađorđe Stars with swords, 2 French Légion d'honneur, the French Croix de Guerre with gold palm, making her the only woman in all of World War I to receive it, the Russian Cross of St. George, the British Medal of the Most Distinguished Order of St. Michael, the Serbian Miloš Obilić Medal in both gold and silver. The French called her the Serbian Joan of Arc, comparing her to the legendary French warrior saint who had herself defied every expectation of what a woman could be in war. And in 1918, The High Command of all the Allied armies issued a written commendation honoring her heroism. She even survived a torpedo attack. In August of 1918, a German submarine sank the French transport ship Le Polynésien, carrying 500 Serbian officer cadets. At least 17 people died, and Milunka was among the survivors pulled from the water and cared for in Malta. The war ended. She was demobilized in 1919, declined France's offer of a pension, and returned to civilian life. The world moved on without her. What followed is perhaps the cruelest chapter of her story. This woman who had fought for her country across 3 wars worked as a postal worker, a cook, a factory laborer. She married a man named Veljko Grigorjević in 1923 and had a daughter, Milena, but the marriage didn't last. By 1927, Serbia's greatest war hero was working as a cleaning lady at the state mortgage bank, and eventually she was promoted to cleaning the general manager's offices. She adopted 3 children along the way. One was Milka, a forgotten child she found at a railway station. Another was Radmila Vishnya. The third was Zorka, a fatherless girl from Dalmatia. Despite never living comfortably herself, she managed to put around 30 children from her home village of Koprivnica through school. During World War II, the Nazis occupied Serbia and invited Milunka to a banquet attended by Nazi officers and Serbian collaborators, including Prime Minister Milan Nedic. She refused to go. For that defiance, she was arrested and sent to the Banjica concentration camp, where she spent 10 agonizing months. Then something remarkable happened. A high-ranking German officer noticed her name on the prisoner list and couldn't believe it. He ordered the guards to bring her to him, and when she arrived at his office, he stood up, saluted her as a military officer, and shook her hand. That German officer had been one of the soldiers Milunka captured during the First World War. He arranged her release. Under communist Yugoslavia, Milunka became persona non grata. The regime prioritized partisan narratives from the Second World War and had little interest in celebrating monarchist-era heroes from the First. She lived in poverty, raising her children on almost nothing. French President Charles de Gaulle personally invited her to his inauguration. Of all his former comrades from Serbia, he chose Milunka alone. France remembered her even when Serbia did not. It wasn't until 1972, just a year before her death, that the Belgrade City Assembly finally gave her a small apartment. She died of a stroke on October 5, 1973. The most decorated female soldier in the history of human warfare passed away in near obscurity. But the story doesn't end there. In 2013, 40 years after her death, her remains were moved with full military honors to the Alley of the Greats at Belgrade's new cemetery, accompanied by the song Tamo Daleko and a gun salute. In 2019, French President Emmanuel Macron visited her grave during a state visit to Serbia. In 2022, Swedish heavy metal band Sabaton released Lady of the Dark in her honor, introducing her story to millions of people worldwide. And in June of 2024, a monument was unveiled in the Belgrade neighborhood where she spent her final years. France remembered Milunka Savić for over a century. Serbia forgot her while she was still alive. But her story is being told again now, and this time, the world is listening. A poor village girl who taught herself to walk like a soldier. A woman who stood at attention for an hour rather than accept no for an answer. A warrior who earned 12 medals, survived 9 wounds, and then quietly spent her remaining years making sure children from her village got the education she believed they deserved. If Milunka's story moved you, there are more like hers waiting. Women history tried to erase, one real story at a time. Subscribe and I'll see you in the next one. That was Milunka Savić, and she deserves to be remembered.